Apprehend God in all things, for God is in all things. Every single creature is filled with God and is a book about God. Amen.
Amen.
I've said this before, I'll say it again. I cannot believe you guys are here. I mean, it's so rainy. It's like, and the storm's looming, and you came. Man, thanks for coming. Palm Sunday and all that, right? But I have a question, really important question. Who's winning the Masters? I know somebody has their phone on out there and is watching. Fess up. Who's... Now, all this master stuff and thinking throughout the week got me thinking about the Final Four. You remember the Final Four? That was only a week ago, and it feels like it was a year ago. But I love watching the Final Four, and one of the main things I love watching about big sporting events like that is how much the people get into it, especially if you have a team, right? If your team's playing and you're really into the team, because the people just ride their team's emotions up and down throughout the whole tournament. I love that. I think it's really important. And I think it's one reason why people like sports so much, because it's one place you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to let your emotions go up and down and ride with it and cry and laugh. And so University of Virginia won, in case you didn't know. University of Virginia won, right? They won anybody go to UVA? Yes, all right. See? You see, nobody does that in church, and he did it. That's what it does for us. So people were going nuts, even more than that. People were going crazy because they won. There was a young man who's a recent alumni who kind of grew up going to church here. And he called his parents when they won on the phone, and he was crying. He was crying. He was so happy about it. And here's the thing. We need this in our lives. We really need it. People need reasons to celebrate. Everybody needs a reason to celebrate. Everybody. Because when we celebrate life, or when we celebrate the people in our lives, it just feels good, doesn't it? We need it. And for me today, Palm Sunday is all about celebrating. It's all about celebration. The beginning of Holy Week starts with celebration. Easter ends in celebration. If you want the other stuff, come during the week, because there's a lot of other stuff too. But today is about celebration, so let's stay in today, in the story for today, because the type of celebration might not be exactly like a Final Four celebration, but it is a celebration that tries to get us into the deep gratitude toward life that we can all have. The deep gratitude toward the people who are in our lives and what they bring into our lives. That's the kind of celebration today is about. Because if we look at the story, Jesus is being celebrated, right? People are going crazy. And they're celebrating this dude. And why? Why do you think they're celebrating Jesus? Don't answer me. I want you to just think about it. Why? And there's as many answers as there are people in here probably. So since we don't have time for that, to listen to what everybody has to say, I'm going to tell you why I think people are celebrating Jesus. And I'm going to put it in the simplest way I can possibly put it. And it's this. People are celebrating Jesus because they think he's going to bring them a better life. People are celebrating Jesus because they think he's going to bring them a better life. A more full, a more rich, a more rewarding life. That's why they're celebrating. So then for me, today is all about that. It's all about celebrating the people in our lives who make our life better. Today is about celebrating the people in our lives who make our life better. Our lives are richer, more full, more beautiful, more deep, more, you fill it in. They're just more because of the people in our lives. So who does that for you? Who makes your life better in that way? I heard a person on the radio who wrote a book about Barbara Bush, and I heard her interviewed the other day, the person who wrote the book. And I have to say, listening to the interview and the way she talked about Barbara Bush makes me want to celebrate Barbara Bush. And here's why, because I don't know Barbara Bush. And she was really only in my life for about 10 minutes through a radio show. But in that 10 minutes, she had a profound impact on me. My life was better because of her. Now, I say I don't know her, I don't know Barbara Bush, but I did have my impressions about her. I knew that she was a devout Christian. I knew that she was really active in her Episcopal church in Houston. I heard she was primarily active in her Episcopal church through working with children. And so I had this picture of her, a picture of an older woman working with children in the church, kind of like a grandmotherly type, cuddly, warm, baked cookies, big-hearted. And I thought, I would love her, and she would love me. We would have such a good time together, she and I. And then the person who was talking about Barbara Bush went on to say, Barbara is described as a no-nonsense, hard-nosed, straight talker who always said exactly what she was thinking. And I thought, people like that make my stomach hurt. It's like, oh man, she was probably one of those mean church ladies. So I went from here's this cuddly, warm grandma to church lady. Oh man, it was a whiplash. And I thought, man, there's no way she would like me. We would not get along. And then the person went on and told this story. She said one day President George W. Bush was walking through the lawn of the Bush home in Maine, and he was walking with his Maine speechwriter. And it was time for a big speech, so they were working hard on it, and they were walking and talking, and they came across Barbara. And George introduced the speechwriter to Barbara, and she goes, "Oh, good, I'm glad I met you. Now I know who to blame if the speech doesn't go well." And I was like, what? Who says that? Who would say that to somebody? She's the kind of person who's hard and cold and mean and makes life harder. Man, what was I thinking? She's not cuddly at all. So just when my opinion couldn't get any worse about her, and I thought I had her pegged, they tell this story. During the height of the AIDS crisis, and it was kind of in the mid-'80s, and it was at the time when people just were so afraid of AIDS, they didn't want anything to do with anybody who even came near AIDS, much less somebody who had it. I mean, it was a time when we thought we could catch it just in the air. People were so afraid and treating people like pariahs and wanting people to just be quarantined and on and on and on. During that time, Barbara Bush went to an AIDS clinic where there were little babies who were born with AIDS. And she went into the clinic and she started picking up the babies and holding them and kissing them and playing with them. And she had people taking pictures on purpose, and she was being filmed on purpose. Because it was as if she was saying to the world, you don't have to be so afraid. People with AIDS are people, and they need everything that other people need. And I thought, my God, what a huge heart. She's not mean. She's not cold. What a huge heart. What courage it would take to do something like that. Her story hit me right in my heart, and it took my breath away. And she gave me a whole new perspective on people, especially on people that I want to stereotype. In my life, I have to say, my friends, my life is richer for it because of her. For me, Barbara Bush is worth celebrating. Today is a day to celebrate, to give thanks, to have gratitude. My question to you is, who will you celebrate today? Amen.
Please stand for the Nicene Creed, the text of which is in your order of worship. We believe in one God, the Father of the Almighty, maker of heaven and earth.